What's going on, Chicken Little? Travis. Got it? The sky is falling.
Okay.
Today's topic. I wasn't.
Maybe offended for a second there. I get it now. All right.
Yes. Today's topic, we're kind of, the naysayers out there, or the sky is falling, negativity, feeling a little bit of that in the market right
it's
now.
not the end of the world of a market, right? It's just been kind of wonky.
Yep.
And, we've had a few months where actually we were kind of like, oh my God, what's going on here? And it's just different, and I think it's challenging on a lot of people's minds.
Absolutely. So escrow cancellation, I was on a mastermind meeting, and here's what's interesting, everybody, is I would love to hear in the comments before we get started. And I will tell you this, the market's not the same everywhere. I was on a mastermind meeting a couple of days ago, had an agent from Florida, had an agent from Atlanta, Georgia, had an agent from Ohio. And the mastermind, it wasn't really a mastermind meeting, it was just a check-in. What's your market like in these areas? And it was a little different everywhere.
Do tell.
So Florida, they were talking about the market over there is they are just now getting into the busy season, what was going on there. Obviously, weather's playing a part in some of the other areas because we're coming out of the winter seasons and going into...
like us here in Southern California. We're running for the hills.
Right.
Because it's raining. Oh my God. We got to change everything we're doing.
Correct. But in a lot of areas, the snow is starting to melt and things of that nature, and it was normal for them. So, and in those areas, some of the words that were being said was, it's starting to pick up for them just because it's springtime now.
Okay, so I think what we're seeing, and you can tell me what you think, is, there's business out there.
Oh, yeah.
When you have a willing seller, that's a magical thing right now.
Correct.
When you have a motivated buyer and informed, I think that's probably a big part of this, that also is fantastic.
Correct.
But it's a little bit of the few and far between. There's a lot of counseling going on because, hey, it's high interest rates. Why would I buy now? And, you got to talk them through that. And, sellers, well, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? So they're challenged. Although their deals are going to get done, they're challenged in a lot of ways.
Correct.
Are you hearing that through this group?
So the other word, you mentioned the word challenge. When I think of challenge, one of the things that I'm thinking of, and the other C word that I'm hearing a lot of right now is cancellation.
Yeah.
And I think that people are rushing. Here's a typical weekend for us. A new property comes on the market. Was talking with one of the agents the other day, and property came on the market. They had open house, and they stopped counting at the 130th group that came through now 130 groups, so that's really about probably 260 to almost 300 people coming through the house. And they stopped counting at that point. So there were well over 300 people in the house in a 3-hour period, and multiple offers. I think the last I checked was like 15 offers on the property. And a few weeks ago, had a very similar conversation with another agent, same experience, and accepted an offer, canceled. Went to the backup offer, canceled. Then it became a little bit of work because by this time some time had passed and the house.
And people kind of moved on.
Exactly. And that's probably the biggest thing that I'm seeing is that we are going a little bit too quick to take that offer. Just because it's the highest, best terms and conditions does not necessarily mean it's the best offer, because right now cancellations are, I'm seeing properties cancel 2 and 3 times before they actually close escrow.
So I was just talking to an agent today, had a listing, canceled. It was at least once. I don't know if it was twice. And found the offer they should have taken in the first place on the third one.
Correct.
7-day escrow, closed. Everyone was happy.
3 cancellations on that one. I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Yeah, so do you think it's, oh boy, I had a thought in my head, it's kind of flittered right out. Is it a counseling thing for people? What's the mentality of the cancellations?
I think it's a slowdown thing. So you have buyers that are coming out of the woodworks that are anxious to do something and then getting that buyer's remorse. You have that buyer's agent that's not really counseling that client and getting a true understanding of where they are. Because some of these cancellations make no sense. It's like, hearing these phone calls. Yeah, I'm calling the buyer's agent. The buyer's agent's calling me back. So I haven't heard from the client. So there's a total disconnect that's happening there. And then again, and then it's also these people are just making offers to make offers to, they get excited for the moment. And then it falls apart 24, 48.
We're coming out of a frenetic market, and that's kind of weird. I'm saying that because
Correct.
it's almost a year ago now
Yep.
that market ended. But there was a lot of work involved. But once you had a transaction, you were kind of done.
Correct.
And now there's a lot of work involved.
Yeah.
And then when you get to the transaction, there's equally as much work involved to get through the transaction. And I think a lot of agents are looking at this going, oh my goodness, and getting a little bit burnt out.
A little bit.
So I think maybe, for buyer's agents at this point, man, as much counseling, as querying,
Absolutely.
getting all the questions out, everything, getting people prepped is your best way to get that buyer through.
Absolutely.
Because you can't do that in escrow these days. Got to be done ahead of time.
Got to be done ahead of time. They're
And then
throwing
you got
stuff
the
against wall.
yeah.
See if it sticks.
Exactly. Well, yeah. You got to make sure the glue is ready before you throw it against the wall. And if
Correct.
you haven't done any work ahead of time, it's going to fall off. And then for sellers, I think that it is patience. You said that just a minute ago, and that's what stuck with me, is that patience. And if they could just take their time on these offers,
Yep.
and maybe some of them will fall apart before you accept it.
Exactly.
And whether that means they back out or you find the hole in the
Ex-
armor and say, oh, wait a minute, no, this isn't the right one for us.
Correct.
So yeah, maybe everybody could take a collective breath, and this would be helpful.
One of the biggest changes in this market that I think a lot of people don't realize is, you mentioned it, when we had our multiple offers and a property fell out of escrow before, nobody cared because the next offer was higher. It was almost like that seller wanted you to cancel because while you were in escrow, you got more offers of above and beyond what you're in escrow for. So they didn't care. But now, a little bit different to try to keep the excitement going on of keeping that property at the same value when that first escrow falls out. And that's probably the primary difference that I'm seeing, or that I feel like we're seeing right now in our market. So,
So here we are chatting about transactions and agents and clientele, but when we were talking before this, we were going to talk about headspace a little bit.
Yep.
Right? And the challenges of the market, and it's, I think it's natural. It makes people pause. It makes realtors, it makes prospectors pause. And that's like the worst thing that can happen in a market like this.
Yep. The reason I'm laughing is because before we came up here, I had an agent stop me, and if you're watching this, you'll know who you are. And the exact words that came out of my mouth at the end of the conversation was, "You got too much stinking thinking going on."
Oh, yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
And she looked at me, and I'm all like, all I'm hearing is stinking thinking. You are looking for every problem in the situation, and you're not looking for solutions. And so, well, what about? And I said, okay, well, here's a solution. I gave her a solution, and then she says, well, what if this happens when you do that? And I'm like,
You just did it again!
and I honestly walked away from it and just said, too much stinking thinking going on. And I add this to this.
Did you tell her too much thinking, so why don't you go think about that?
Well, here's craziness. I got on the telephone right after that and caught myself doing the exact same thing.
Oh, wow.
Gotta be careful who you hang out with and who you associate with, because it started to rub off because I was around it so much, and she was making such a big deal of it. It actually rubbed off, and I was passing it on to the next, and I had to catch myself because I got corrected when I made that phone call. So we have to be careful with that, because we are seeing so much of that. And it's so easy. It's so easy right now to slide
There's no
down that slippery
judgment
slope.
here. Just
None whatsoever. I was guilty of it 10 seconds after I accused somebody of it. So it's not about judgment. It's about really making sure that we do everything that we can, and it is probably as important now as it's ever been to put yourself in check and make sure that what's happening up here between the ears is functioning on all cylinders.
Yes.
And you're welcoming the right things into your mind to keep the mindset right.
and one of the more challenging environments to do that.
Absolutely.
We'll give you that. It is.
Yes.
It's more challenging than it's been in a long time, but the payback on staying calm, cool, and collected and moving forward is big.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what's the solution?
The solution is this. You've got, okay, so I'm talking about like keeping your business going in a market like this, is you got to keep doing those important things.
Absolutely.
Whatever those are for you. You know, in the end, it's stirring the pot.
Correct.
So you choose how to stir it, but make sure you're stirring the pot. Most people stop. They're like, I'm not getting the response that I was getting. I feel like I'm missing something here. And the reality is everybody's feeling that. And those who will overcome that and realize, hey, I'm not getting the return that I think I'm getting, but I'm getting the presence and the notoriety of being out there.
Right.
So that when the time is right, I'm postured to be the winner. That's what we need to
Absolutely.
be thinking right now.
I love it. So I guess I look at it as right now, take a look at the business, figure out what's really happening, and figure out where you need to make adjustments. And I'll give you an example. If you are running ads, or if you've got things that are going on that there's money behind, whether you're running pay-per-click or Facebook ads or things like that, they are not performing as well as they used to. And a lot of that is because of what the current market is. And too often people will take that and look at it right now and say, hey, well, wait a minute, I got to back off of that. And I would encourage you, and you should, and I hope that you've got the budget to actually be able to push through, because it may be a time where you're actually putting more money behind these things. Now, I'm not saying just loosey-goosey, go out there.
Have a plan.
Don't find the next silver bullet and put a bunch of money behind it and hope it's going to work. I'm talking about those things that you've been doing over and over again that have been true and proven and are not performing the way that they used to. You know, you got monthly mailers going out or weekly mailers going out into your geographic farm, whatever the consistency of it is. It may not be performing the way it shouldn't be performing the way it is because there's not as many sales going on right now. Okay? It may be time to add another one to that, add the frequency or bump the frequency up a little bit. Yeah, I realize it's going to cost money, but too often people look at our business of costing money, and don't take a step back to determine, well, what's the actual ROI on this, that I'm really doing? How much is it costing me to get that client and get that client from point A to point Z and actually sell the property, and is it worth it? And if I'm making more than what I'm actually spending, then I'm doing okay. Don't have the money? That's okay. All it means is more phone calls. All it means is more door knocking. All it means is more calling on the telephone, more text messages, more DMs, more belly-to-belly conversations. Whatever it is, it's going to be more of it. So, if you're prospecting 3 hours a day, I would say you should be prospecting 4 hours a day now. If you're prospecting a half hour a day, you need to bump that up and make those adjustments.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
And let's go back. Let's bring this full circle.
Sure.
Get that morning routine.
Absolutely.
Someone spoke this week about morning routines. I forget who it was.
I don't remember who it was either. And are you keeping up on the morning routine?
I am. I feel great about it. I got up early today.
Me too. So
and yesterday too.
We started on Monday. We put a challenge out there to adjust the morning routine. Whatever the routine was, the challenge for everybody who was participating was to make an adjustment to it and start by waking up earlier than you were waking up. We had a few other things that we had added onto that, but yeah. So this is day 2.
Yes.
And if you happen to be watching this and you're on that, you got to get through the first 10 days, people.
30 days to make a habit, actually.
Correct. Well, 21. I think it's 21 to 30 days to create that habit, but it's the first 10 days, and then you're going to see a little bit of a relief on, boom, this is starting to feel more comfortable. Then that second one comes at about 21 to 30 days, and then after that, it will start to become that routine. It's really how do I do this? How do I get it to a habit? How do I change that habit to a routine? And it's going to take a bit, but what are the end results?
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what happens.
I'll tell you, since we're talking, I'll just kind of go off here. I was in this habit. I get up and I do my little workout in the morning. And then as I was eating breakfast, I'd go through this series of playing these little games on my phone.
Yep.
And it was like important to me. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And all of a sudden, after your class, I'm like, what am I doing?
Yep.
I don't do that anymore. So now I fill that time with some work. I
There
won't
we
go into
go.
what I do, but it's something more productive.
Exactly. And more productive for everybody can be something different. I mean, it can be different for everybody. So the whole goal in this challenging yourself every morning is break up that routine and change the routine.
Yes.
And I'll tell you one of the biggest challenges I had in the first 2 days is eliminating multitasking in the morning.
Yeah. Oh God, that's powerful though.
And it is. And I thought about it because day one, it's like there were some dishes in the sink, and I'm sitting there and I'm doing the dishes, and I got a podcast playing in the background, and I wasn't fully present to the podcast.
Gonna miss it.
Yep. And I sat there and I was all like, oh, but I got the podcast done. And then after it was finished, I'm like, no, I'm not fully present to this. So I started it over and made sure that I was fully present. I wasn't able to put as much time into the podcast because of how I started the day, but I got more out of the short period of time than I did trying to multitask through that and get two things done at the same time. So
See, by just reflecting, we're learning things about what we're doing and improving them.
exactly. So mindset. If you guys are up for the challenge, put a little comment down below. I'm happy to share our challenge, and if you guys want to join us.
Absolutely. All right.
Sweet.
Upwards and onwards.
Absolutely.
It's not the end of the world.
Not even close.
Keep spinning those wheels, and it'll happen.
There are opportunities out there. We just got to go find them. Have a wonderful, I'm not even sure what day it is,
Yeah.
but whenever you listen to this, have a wonderful whatever day that is. If you're enjoying, please like and subscribe. Comment down below. We would love to hear your comments on what you guys think about what we're talking about.